Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Chapter 2 is going to be dealing with the sales process. Okay. So, chapter 4, we learned about expenses, right? We learned what it's like to deal with our vendors. Well, the sales process is more or less the same, except this time instead of dealing with our vendors, we're going to be dealing with our customers. So, everything that you learned in chapter 4, it's going to be more or less the same, except this time instead of dealing with a vendor, we're dealing with a customer. The way that we input things is identical, right? Especially when we dive into entering our customer profiles, okay? So again, when we're on here, it gives you pretty much a huge the topics that we're going to be learning here today in the sales process. Now, let me tell you this: chapter 2, chapter 3, and chapter 13. That whole entire section is going to be dealing with this group of individuals, which is your customers. So the customers is actually going to be the biggest portion, because think about it. In any kind of business, what is your main goal? Your main goal is to make a profit. That means you need to sell your products. So that's why this whole entire section is going to expand between chapters 2, 3, and 13. Okay, so chapter 2, we're just going to take a look at how to just initialize the very first sales process, right? What happens when we need to invoice our customers? What happens when we have a sale at time of place and they paid at time of purchase? That's that section for today. Tomorrow, chapter 3 is a continuation to what else can you do with customers, and that's where we learn about what happens when we need to return a product to a customer, or a customer returns products to us. How do we do a refund, right? How do we do customer statements, okay? And how we deal with sales tax, right? So that's chapter 3. And then the next day after that, on Wednesday, we're going to talk about chapter 13, which is going to be what happens when we have sales orders, okay? So again, this whole section for customers is broken down into 3 chapters, okay? Chapter 2, 3, and 13. So that is going to be this whole week's of itinerary. Is what are we going to be dealing with? We're going to be dealing with our chunk of individuals known as our customers, okay? Now, here it says that we need to open up sales 21 in QBW, with the password is Questiva21. So what I've mentioned before is, instead of wasting the 5 minutes that I have in time of class, I already have the file up and opened already. Okay, so I've already taught you how to open up a portable file. Just go back to those the 3 videos that I've showed you already, how to practice and open a portable file. Okay, so now that I've already opened up my chapter 2 portable file, let's go ahead and see what is next. Okay, so just exactly like how we have our vendors, right? Our customers are also going to be kept track in 2 different ways, right? We have our cash customers and we have our credit customers, right? Same exact way as we have our cash vendors and our credit vendors, right? But this time, when we're dealing with our cash customers, what does that mean? It means those customers pay at time of service, whether they paid with a cash, credit card, check, or EFT, whatever means that they paid us. The idea is that they paid us at time of service or at time of sale. Okay, we call that our cash customers. Okay, our credit customers are going to be our customers that buy things from us and do not pay us right away. They choose to owe us the money and put it on an account, and then they will pay us later down into the future. Okay? We call those our credit customers. Okay? So the things that we're going to be dealing with is going to be a sales receipt, which is meant for our cash customers. Okay? So when we collect our cash at time of sale, right? We must issue our customers a sales receipt. So think of it like you're at a shop, right? You're pressing numbers into a cash register, right? And you have to give the customer a receipt. This is the same exact thing. This is the sales receipt right here. It's like when that customer paid with cash, check, or credit card, right? You have to give them that receipt, which is called a sales receipt. Okay? And of course, when we talked about sales receipt, we're going to also talk about other things like invoices, right? Invoices, right, are for our credit customers that choose to pay us after, right? They come to our store, they say, hey, can I open up an account with you? And if you say yes, then they'll charge on their account, and that means they owe you money later. They'll pay you later. And that's where you're going to issue invoices, okay? So oftentimes, right, if we are the recipient, we will get billed the invoice, right? So that's why we have to really understand who are we in the position of the business. Are we the vendor or are we the customer? So in this case, right, when we're looking at the sales process and we need to bill somebody, we're going to issue an invoice to say, hey, you owe me money. And this is your invoice. Okay? So that's what we have to understand there. And then of other ones that we'll see is going to be deposits, estimates, and sales orders. So again, this estimates and sales orders is going to be in chapter 13. Deposits is going to be in chapter 3. But invoices and sales receipts is going to be chapter 2. So again, a lot of these things that we're talking about right now are going to be, they're all connected to customers, but the way that we view them or understand how they work is going to be broken up in between those chapters, okay? So let's go ahead and dive right into looking at our customer center, okay? So first off, let's go ahead and explore this process right here. So since we're done with vendors for now, okay, we're going to focus on this middle section on our homepage where we see our customer center right here, right? We understand that the customers is going to be dealing with our sales orders and estimates. So this is chapter 13. We're going to have creating our invoices, and we're going to have our sales receipt. And what happens when we issue those ideas and we receive a payment? We're also going to take a look at what happens when we need to record our deposits, okay? So this whole section right here is your sales process right here. If a customer paid at time of service, you're going to issue them a sales receipt. If a customer decides to owe us on an account, then you're going to issue them a invoice and expect them to receive a payment from them, okay? So all of this is going to be what we're going to talk about today in chapter 2. Okay, so let's go ahead and view what the customer center does. Okay, so there are 3 ways to get to the customer center, right? First one's right here on the homepage, just exactly like up here, right? Our vendor center. Here, instead of the vendor center, right here on the homepage, you have that little blue words and it's a tab. You roll your mouse on it, it says right here, go to the customer center. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2 is going to be right here at the top of the window under customers menu. You can go to the customer center this way as well. Okay, and of course the last one is going to be on your icon bar, which is a default setting for you to find your customers this way as well. So here you have customers right here. This is going to take you to the customer center. So there are 3 ways to get to the customer center, just exactly how we do for the vendor center. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use the one on my homepage. Now let's take a look at this one now. This vendor center looks identical to, or this customer center looks identical to the vendor center, right? You have a list of all the customers with their respective account balances. And when you click on them, right, on the right side, you have an overview of who they are, okay? So for example, Anderson Wedding, right? This is the customer profile. And then right below that is going to be a list of all the transactions that you have between this customer, okay? You also have the means to be able to view transactions here as well. So, for example, right, you can view your estimates, your sales orders, your invoices, your sales receipts, right? You can see it all, okay? But in this case, right, it looks identical to the vendor center. So tell me, like I mentioned before, right, chapter 4 taught you many things. So in this case, to make it that much more easy and flexible to utilize QuickBooks is once you know how to do one thing, you're able to do the other. You're able to do complete everything else in this in QuickBooks, right? So if I need to add a customer, how do I do it? Right here at the customer center, you have the means to enter in your customer, right? Right here at the top where it says new customer, right? You can enter one or you can enter multiple, right? We saw that already. You're also able to create a new customer by simply right-clicking anywhere on the list and clicking new customer, okay? So again, that's the only way that you can do it is through the customer center. You need to access any way you get to the customer center, whether it's the home page, menu bar, or icon bar, and then you're able to go ahead and create your new customer. So let's go ahead and take a look at that and create a new customer, okay? So you're going to get a very similar form like we've seen before. You have the left column here, you have a bunch of tabs. The only difference is the information that you put on there is going to be different, okay? Your customer and your vendor are not going to be the same exact type of kind of person, right? They're going to be separate. And here's a fun fact too. If you do have a vendor who is also a customer, you would actually have to create two separate files for it, okay? One, so you know it's a vendor, and the other one is going to be so that you know it's a customer, okay? Now, they cannot have the same exact name, so you have to make sure that you know that. They cannot be the same exact name. They have to have some kind of differentiation between the two. So, for example, if I had Boswell Consulting that I did last week, right? If he's my vendor, but he's also my customer, I have to say Boswell Consultant V for vendor, and then Boswell Consulting C for customer. Because in QuickBooks, right, once you enter in Boswell Consulting, it's going to automatically think that you're thinking about this vendor because you placed him in the vendor. Now, even if though they have like different things like such as addresses or even social security numbers, that could be different. It doesn't matter. You have to make some kind of differentiation between the two. Okay? So, at the very top here, this is where I'm going to be filling out the name that will appear on the list. So, in this case, the person that I'm going to be entering in for my customers is going to be Mr. or Dr. Tim S. Fang. Okay? So remember, this top one right here, the customer name is going to be what appears on your customer list. Okay? So in this case, right, maybe I don't know this, but I'm going to go ahead and put in Tim Fang. Okay? Tim Fang. All right, again, never use this account balance. Okay, opening balances, never use it. You're better off entering in whatever invoices that they owe you to create this account balance. Okay, never use this. So company name, right? Because in this case, a vendor could be a customer as well. But in this case, no. There's no need for a company name. Okay? Full name. What is he, a Mr. or Mrs.? In this case, he's a doctor. Okay? First name. Okay, Tim. Okay, if you want to move across this a lot quicker without having to click, you can use your tab key. Okay, so S, tab, Fang. Okay, so next one, job title. Okay, now in this case, I don't know why they do it, but they tell you to say that he's the owner. You didn't even type in a company in the first place, so he's an owner of himself. I mean, you know, we'll just follow whatever the book says. The book says that he's the owner, but that makes no sense to have to fill something out like that if you don't have a company in the first place. Okay, so he's the owner. Okay, what is his main phone number? Okay, so his main phone number is going to be Tim S. Fang, number 408-555-8298. Okay, and what is his email address? It is drf for Dr. Fang at, I think it's df. Okay, so drf at df.biz. Okay. Do you need to have a website for him? Not really. Okay, so there you go. Is there a fax number we can contact him? You don't have to add anything there. Again, as long as you have the main one, which is the phone number that you're going to primarily contact him with, and an email. Okay, so here now we got to put in the address. Okay, so Tim S. Fang, where does he live? He lives on 300 North 1st Street. Okay, 300 North 1st Street. Okay, and he lives in San Jose, California. And his postal code is 95136. Okay, for any reason that your book does not match my screen, that's okay. This is all relative, right? Obviously, your customers are going to have a whole bunch of different addresses. It's not like you are obligated to follow my screen with the book, okay? Because the book has different times where they've been edited and so on and so forth. So this information may not match your screen or your book, but at the end of the day, it's relative. You guys can understand what we're trying to do here, right? So in this case, now the question is, how are we going to ship things to Tim S. Fang, right? Again, shipping address for a customer. There could be multiple shipping addresses. So as you can see here, the ship to, you have a drop-down menu. Because for instances, right, you can purchase gifts and ship them to other people. It's not like you have to have the person's billing address and shipping address to be the same. So that's the idea here, is someone could be paying for somebody and shipping a gift to them, but be paying them on their card instead of the person that they're shipping out to. All right, so that's what you can have. Now in this case, right, Tim S. Fang, his address is going to be the same, and we're going to do, instead of ship to one, we can call this business address, or this could be his home address, right? Business address. Okay, and everything looks good, right? It's going to be 300 North Street, San Jose, California, right? And when I copy that over, it's going to copy everything else over, including what I titled this address. Now, let's say he wants to send a gift to his mother for Mother's Day, right? Then I can insert another address, maybe because Tim doesn't live with his mom anymore, but he wants to send his mother a nice portrait of himself, you know, with achievement, accomplishments, whatever you want to do it, okay? Maybe he wants to send his mom a gift. He can do that by sending it to another person, okay? To another address, okay? And that's the thing about having this, right? Especially if you do this online, you can choose that every time they open up an account, you can choose for them to save the address on there so they don't have to keep typing it over and over again. But if they're calling in, right, you can either say, hey, I want this to ship to XYZ, okay? And then, of course, you have this little thing right here saying this is the default shipping address. That's just in case, like, if you know somebody is like shipping out and they're constantly buying the same product and you're shipping out to that one person and it's to this address, then you can also have it saved as the default settings. Okay? Now, when we take a look at a sales form, I can show you where you're able to toggle those settings as well. Okay, so that's that there. That's the first section here. So then the next section is going to be payment settings. So this is where we can collect information such as account number, right? Because this is Tim S. Fang. He has an account with us, okay? And that account number is going to be, let's see, his account number is going to be 3546. Okay, that's his account number. And does he have a credit limit with us? Yes, he does. It is $8,000. Okay, because since we are the vendor, right, we're going to say he can only cap maximum at $8,000. Because that's a lot of money that an individual can owe us. So we want to make sure that we do have a cap maximum right here. So then in case that we ever go over the limit, it will flag us saying, hey, this person's about to go over the limit. Are you going to reject their sales or are you going to say it's okay? Right? All right. So then the next one, after we put the account number in there, right? Then we got to give him some terms. Okay. So in this case, terms, we maybe Mr. Tim S. Fang is new. So in this case, we'll say no. You're just gonna get billed and say that it's due at the end of 30 days. Okay, it's at the end of the month or 30 days. Now price level, it's up to you. It could be commercial. So in this case, he's commercial. Again, this is the same thing here, price level. If you remember from chapter 7, price levels only determine, are they going to get a higher price rate than a regular residential individual. So in this case, maybe he does get charged commercial, right? And the proper way to do is email him, okay? And then what is his preferred type of payment. So this is where we can also collect credit card information. And this is exactly why in chapter 12, it is so important you set a password. Now here, if you guys remember from chapter 12, I did mention this. You need to set a password. If you choose to skip that password and set it later and you close your company file, the first thing happens when you open up your company file is it's going to tell you to set a password and you cannot bypass it a second time. So it's very important because things like this, if we're putting in customers' information on a credit card and you have this file open up into the public, what is the issue here? You can get someone who can hack the computer and be able to steal all this company's sensible data. And what happens to that? A customer can sue you for breach of data. So you want to be very, very careful because, again, if you're holding customer information, you have to be very, very careful and protect your QuickBooks. Okay? So in this case, yes, we're gonna collect this piece of information so then when Tim S. Fang decides to call us and say, hey, yeah, just charge it on my account or just charge it on my credit card, we already have the credit card on file instead of having to push it in again. Now, for those companies who do not believe in this, right, do not believe in holding onto credit card information because of the security reasons, you can always ask the customer, what is your credit card information at any given time? Because you don't have it on file, you don't believe in keeping that information, then you can request for the customer to give you the credit card information right then and there. Okay? So in this case, the credit card number here is going to be 1234 dash 5678 dash 07 567 56778-910 1-1234. They're missing a number in your book. Okay? Because most credit card numbers are either 16-digit or 12-digit, never 11. Or 15. Okay, usually it's a 16-digit code. Okay, so we enter that in. Other things that we can say here, what is the expiration date? Expiration date is going to be December 2025. Okay, and then of course all this information, whose name is on the card. Usually it should fill it in for you. You didn't have to type anything, but for any reason, let's say Tim's card says it's Timothy, then you're gonna have to fill it in, Timothy S. Fang, because it has to match the card holder's name on the card. Okay, again, that's another security purpose. So maybe Tim is just his nickname. Okay, address, again, if his billing address is the same where he actually, if his billing address is what you typed in the first place, then the billing address should match what you put in the previous one. So all you have to do is just click, 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 and then it should fill it in automatically for you. Okay, important rule that you must need to know when saving credit card information. The only thing you absolutely cannot save is the security card, the security code on the back of the credit card, right? The CCV. You cannot save that information because that's a means for the person to authorize this transaction with you. Okay, so this one's something that you have to request. Okay, you cannot save it because once again, that's just room for more fraudulent charges, right? And this is for in case you do have online payments. How do you collect it? You can use an online credit card, yada, yada, yada. But in this case, we don't need to fill this out. Okay? So that's just his payment option. Yes.
So you talked about one person being the vendor and the customers,
Mm-hmm.
but from your experience, what would be a good way to distinguish the customers who has happen to have the same name,
I
same account number?
Okay, in this case, they would definitely not have the same account number. So again, your customer and your vendor, right? They have different profiles, right? They have different
Yeah.
questions that they ask you. But that's not what the idea of what QuickBooks does, because QuickBooks just, when you enter in a name, that's what it's searching the whole entire book on. Okay, so when you fill in, let's say I type in Tim, right? It's gonna show up on my drop down menu that he's either a customer or a vendor. The best way I would do it is by putting a letter initial. So maybe Tim S. Fang. Maybe I'll put Tim S. Fang, and then on his last name, I'll put V on it. Or I'll put somewhere, because it has to be differentiated. Okay? So V for vendor, C for customer.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I
Mm-hmm.
meant when the two customer happen to have the same name.
Okay, two customers. Then you're gonna have to either do one or two, or use their middle name. Now, what are the chances that you have a Tim S. Fang and another Tim S. Fang, right? Maybe not that high of a chance, but it's not like it will never happen, right? Because you can always have someone like John Smith, John Smith Sr., John Smith Jr., right? John Smith the third, John Smith the fourth. Any reasons that you have a customer that has the same exact name, you're just going to have to either dig into more information and change the title, saying, okay, this is Tim S. Fang number 2 or Tim S. Fang number 3. And you're just going to have to make sure that you know the difference between them, or again, maybe type out his entire middle initial. So instead of S, it could be Steve, right? Tim Stephen Fang.
How about if you put them in and the name, wouldn't they have different addresses?
It doesn't matter what information you put on each profile. What matters is what you put in the customer name, because QuickBooks is going to do a search, right? If you remember, when I type in the first 2 letters of someone's name, it's going to pull out everybody that's in your list, from whether they're vendor, customer, or employee. They're going to search that. So it doesn't matter what information you put in as their addresses. because that's not what QuickBooks is going to look for. QuickBooks is just going to look for the title that you assign this person.
Okay, thank you.
So that's why you have to make a differentiation between the two.
So, Lynn,
Mhm.
then does QuickBooks, if you've already got that name, does it warn you that you've already got that name?
Correct.
In any way?
Correct. It will say that, oh, this person already exists. And then you choose to either choose to replace it, cancel it, or do something about it. It will give you that pop-up menu saying this person already exists in QuickBooks. Yes. Someone had a question? Okay.
All good.
All good. All right. So that was the payment. So again, important that yes, you can save credit card information. Just know there are a few rules and regulations on keeping the sensitive information in your books. Okay. So that's the second tab. The third tab is going to be sales tax. What are the sales tax settings? So in this case, right, we'll talk about this in chapter 3, right? When you have a group of individuals, right, how are you going to tax them? Well, simple, right? Think about your products that you sell. Are you selling a product? Are you selling a service? What are you selling? Because if you're selling a product, you have to tax no matter what. And what this tax setting does is it makes it so much more easier to understand, okay, well, this person's going to get taxed, right? If this person is, let's say this guy is, he went to the military. That means he's not going to get taxed at the full percentage. He's going to get taxed at the government one. Because again, governments, individuals that are part of the army, military, or some kind of association with that section right there, they get a discount on tax because they served in the American forces, so they get a special privilege to get tax exempt or a lower tax rate. So in this case, if Tim S. Fang really was one, but he's a doctor, so there's no way. If he was a government worker, then he can get a deduction or a tax break here. Doesn't have to pay sales tax. If he works for a nonprofit organization, that's going to be it. But in this case, he's just a regular person. If he's going to be a regular person, he's going to get taxed at the full tax bracket amount. Okay? Whatever the sales tax is. Now, in this case, he belongs to San Jose. So that means he's definitely going to get charged at Santa Clara taxes. So that we'll talk about sales tax codes and what sales tax, I see right here, I just put in sales that he is going to get charged at Santa Clara tax. We'll talk about what a sales tax item is in chapter 3. Okay?
One question.
Yes.
Then quickly. When you pulled the drop-down list up on the codes, it said out of state was non-taxable. I thought we taxed per the place that it was delivered.
Correct. But in this case, this okay, I'm going to tell you this. This was created way back in 2017. And all these files are just being updated from 2017, 2019. The information's all the same. They just update it so that we're able to use it on the proper program. So in this case, maybe back then, I don't know, but I can tell you this, true. Out of state, you charge them based on the state that they reside in, not the state that we are selling the product in. So if we're delivering it to California, they get subject at California tax. So I don't understand why this is out of state. Maybe this is for international, which is very highly taxable, right? You did charge international rates at that point. But in this case, it's just an example of what kind of sales tax code you would normally see available, right? Regular tax, right? Someone who's working in the government, they get a sales tax exemption. Anybody who's working as a nonprofit, sales tax exemption. Okay? Think of it for a grocery store, right? which products are taxable, which products are non-taxable, right? Your groceries are going to be all non-taxable. So that's what a sales tax code does. It tells you whether something is taxable and for what price point or what can they be taxed at. So again, alcohol, completely different tax level than regular sales tax, right? For food. Okay. So in this case, that's one of them, is that I don't know why it says out of state was non-taxable. It is 100% taxable. Okay. And Santa Clara, again, we'll talk about sales tax items later on in chapter 3. Okay. And a resale number. Now, if they were reselling our product, then they wouldn't technically get taxed. In this case, we'd be able to tax exempt them if we can prove that they are a legitimate business that's reselling. So in this case, they have a reselling thing, non-taxable, because they are going to collect the tax for us anyway. So there's no point to double tax on an item when they're going to just resell the item afterwards. So in this case, do they have a resale number? In this case, no. We chose that they're not going to resell our product. So in this case, we can go ahead and leave this section blank. Right? Additional information. So once again, what kind of customer type does this book, does Mr. Tim S. Fang belong to? Well, in this case, right, you can have groups of individuals that can be grouped up depending on what kind of customer they are. So, for example, they could be a business customer, right? They could be a retail customer. They could be a wholesaler. So, again, these individuals, right, if they're buying from you as a wholesaler to resell the product, maybe you can group them into those kind of customers, right? They could be a referral. Maybe they were sent by someone else, right? And if you have this information on there, then you can maybe give them a discount because they were referred. But in this case, he's just a regular business individual, okay? And who's their sales representative? In this case, you can, if you want to, if you have them in already set up in your profile, right? If you have employees who do things for other people, right? Then you can go ahead and designate them to each person's sales representative, okay? It's not obligated, but it's just one of those things that you can have. So especially if you're a business who's a commission based. So if this person takes that client, that means they get commissions off of that individual. So that you can run your reports to see, okay, this employee had that many sales versus this employee had this many sales. Okay, so which one gets a higher commission or which one gets them a bonus, there's means that you can use this sales representative section right here. So in this case, the book just tells you Mike Mizuki. Okay. Now, if you remember defined fields, we got the county, and the county here is going to be Santa Clara. Okay. Now, if you guys remember what custom fields are, we learned this last week. If you have information on Tim S. to just kind of have a conversation starter, then go ahead and put it in there. So, for example, he's a doctor. Maybe talk about, how long have you had your business? Okay, maybe he's asking you so he can have professional photo shots so he can hang them on his office, right? Any reasons, they then talk about it, right? So in this case, I'm just going to skip that just because we've already took a look at that in chapter 4. No need to do any of that. And here, job/info. This is only in case you want to assign a job to this customer. So again, if you have a particular job, so maybe Tim S. Fang decides that he wants to have three certain jobs that he wants to have done. He wants to have one where it's a headshot of him, right? Maybe that's the first job, so someone can do that job. And then another one could be he wants an office visit picture photo shoot, okay? And then he wants one interacting with the customers, right? Those can all be three different jobs that can be designated to a particular worker, vendor, or whatever it is, right? If Tim S. Fang wants to have these 3 jobs, that's where you can put it in here and say, this is the job that Tim wants. Okay? But in this case, you won't necessarily have that many jobs tailored to particular customers, except for just basically billing them for what they requested for, or if you're making a purchase for that individual, that's probably it. Okay, you again, job costing is just going to be one of those situations where it may apply or it may not apply to you. Okay, so once everything looks good, I can go ahead and click OK. Now notice this, right when I added in here, Tim S. Fang is all the way at the bottom here, but let's take a look. Ron Berry, or in this case Bob Mason, last name goes first. So that means I need to change this to make it look so then it looks uniform to everybody else on the list. So I can edit this information at any given time by double clicking on it. So same thing with a vendor, right? If let's say my customer decides to say, I have a change of address or my phone number is different, you can change the information at any given time. Okay, so for instance, I have to change this because it goes last name first. So I can type in Fang, right, comma, Tim. Right? So remember, this is what's going to show up on your customer list. When I click OK, now he's brought up to the F right here. So F, comma, Tim, just like everybody else, Mason, comma, Bob, okay, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's how we enter in a customer's information, right? Straightforward, easy. All you have to do is answer the questions. Very similar to what we've been doing for last week, right? Any questions here? Okay. So, no questions. So that means we can finally dive right into the actual sales process. So, how do we initiate the sales process? First off, we have to think about two things. How are we going to be selling our product? Okay? Because if you are an in-store type of ordeal, then you're definitely going to be using a sales receipt. But if you are the kind of person that's like online, or a kind that likes to issue invoices, and then those jobs, once they're completed, then you bill your customer, then you're only going to be strictly using invoices. In this case, we have both that's able to have, right? We have an actual store location. So in this case, we can be receiving money at time of purchase, or we can also be able to issue those if they are paying or owing us on an account and paying us later. So again, first one that we're going to take a look at is the sales receipt. So again, as I've mentioned before, a sales receipt is strictly only used if you have customers who pay at time of service or at time of sale. Okay, meaning you should be receiving a cash check, a credit card payment, or an electronic funds transfer, right? Nowadays, we can transfer money using our mobile banking apps. Okay? That's why we would use a sales receipt. So let's take a look at our first customer here, Mr. Jerry Perez, I believe. Okay? So let's go ahead and look at our home page here and locate our sales receipt. So right here, create sales receipt is right here on my home page. Okay? So that's one way you're able to enter it in. Okay? The second way you're able to enter in a sales receipt is by going right here at the top of the window, going into your customers menu, and you'll be able to create a sales receipt this way. So create sales receipt. Okay? And as you remember, right, if you go into the customer center, you have three ways to be able to enter it in. Whether you go up here at the very top, new transaction, you want to enter in a sales receipt, okay? You can right click on any individual and create the sales receipt that way. Sales receipt. Sales receipt. Right? You should be able to create it. I can't find it right now. And of course, you can also be able to do that by going down to the menu here when you click on that particular individual, right? Let's say Anderson Wedding. You can come down right here where it says manage transactions. Click on this drop-up menu. You have the sales receipt here. Okay? So that's 5 ways. Last but not least is going to be the income tracker. So however you get to the income tracker, whether it's through your menu bar, the center, or usually the icon bar is your go-to. Okay? Income tracker. So let's take a look at that income tracker. Okay? Income tracker. So let me scroll up on my icon bar here. Okay, income tracker is going to keep track of your income. Straightforward, right? This gives you a list of all the invoices that you've completed, who's made their payments on time, who received discounts, and so on and so forth, who has paid. And that is what the income tracker is. So it's a way for you to make sure that you have it all in one page to see who owes you the money. Okay, when are they expected to pay you by? All right, and you're able to go down here to the manage transactions and be able to enter in a sales receipt this way as well. So again, 6 different ways you can enter in a sales receipt. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back to our home page and just let's go there. Okay, so here, let me close out my windows and I'm going to go ahead and click on sales receipt. So once I get my sales receipt, this what should it look like, okay? Very straightforward, right? And let's go ahead and type in, let's see, sales receipt. We are going to be typing in to the customer is going to be Mr. Jerry Perez, like I've mentioned before. So again, I can type in Jerry, so Jerry. Notice this, he doesn't pop up on my list, but like I've mentioned, right? When you type in the first couple letters in there, it should pull out up everybody on your list. So vendor, customer, whatever it is, right? In this case, it's assuming that it's a customer because I'm using a sales receipt, right? I'm only strictly looking at just my customers. So in this case, Jerry Perez doesn't exist, okay? So what I can do here is I'm just going to type in Jerry Perez, okay? He doesn't exist. So if I click that tab button, it's going to give me this weird window that says, hey, this person does not exist. What do you want to do? Do you want to quick add them? Do you want to set them up? Or do you want to cancel? Maybe you accidentally typed in the wrong name. In this case, the book tells you to quick add. So once again, quick add is where you're just adding them into the list very quickly without getting any information in regard to that customer. Okay? And yes, you will have customers that come and go, right? Are you obligated to stop them and collect all their information? Absolutely not. If they choose to open an account with you, you need to have all the information on them. Okay? But if it's someone who's just stopping by and decides to purchase something from you and then you never hear them again, maybe you don't even need to put their phone number or their name in here. Okay? So again, when you have those kind of people who do that, then you don't need to really enter in any information except for maybe they're just a customer. Okay? What class does Jerry Perez belong to? I believe, let's see what it says here. Jerry Perez, he is from San Jose. And the date that you're going to be doing this is January 27. So he's from San Jose. So there you go, San Jose. And we're doing this on January 27. Okay? Now, here's a few things out. So that's that. So again, because this person you don't have any information in there. That's why this shipping address here is blank, because you just quick added him in there. Now, the sales receipt number, it's whatever you choose to have this number to keep track of your sales receipt. So the best way they teach you is, why don't you use the year and a number to associate this is your very first sales receipt. So in this case, I'm going to put 2022-1, saying this is my first sales I've done in 2022. Okay? Some of them put 101, okay, 102, 103. It doesn't matter. I'm going to put sales 2022. It's whatever number you want to associate this, so you can keep track of all your sales that you've made either this year, last year, or something so forth. If you have a designated number sequence, go ahead and use it. Okay? So that's that there. Now, the next thing I'm going to see here is, what did Jerry Perez buy for me? In this case, Jerry Perez bought, okay, he bought 3 outdoor photo sessions and 2 premium photo packages, okay? So that's what I'm going to do here is I'm going to fill in what were the items that we purchased. So we're talking about items in chapter 8, so next week. But in this case, right, items is going to be something that we sell, a product that we sell. So in this case, we do have some indoor photo sessions. Okay? So Ron, keep saying Ron. His name is Jerry. Jerry bought 3 outdoor. So we have indoor and outdoor photo sessions, right? These ones are pre-made in our book, in our QuickBooks already. So again, we'll talk about items more in depth in chapter 8 when we dive into inventory, okay? So in this case, they've already have the items here listed for me. So in this case, I am going to be having in outdoor photo sessions, and Ron, keep saying Ron, Jerry, he bought 3 of them, okay? Now notice this. He's being taxed at the service because in this case, right, it's not a product we sold. It's time that we sold, right? We sold a service, okay? Now, for any instances that you have a problem with this formatting of this template, you can toggle it over here under templates if you have a designated one. So again, chapter 7, when we created our templates, that's where you would toggle it here. In this case, I don't need to change it. All right, so I got 3 outdoor photo sessions. Now, let's take a look at this. 3 outdoor photo sessions, it's taxed at service, so that means it's non-taxable. It's going to cost him $95 per session, so it automatically calculates for you a total of $285, okay? Next thing I have here is going to be premium photo packages, right? He purchased 2 of those, and those are taxable, okay? They're actual products that we actually sell. Maybe this premium photo package comes with photo paper and a picture frame. Those are things that you can tax because it's not a service, it's a product. So therefore, it's going to get taxed. So when I put the 2 here, it's going to cost $85 per premium package. So in this case, it's going to give me a total of $170. And look at this. When I go down here, down below, since he's from San Jose, he's going to be taxed at Santa Clara, which is 8.25%. So that means because this item right here is taxable, it's only going to charge the tax on that. So that means I'm only going to be collecting $14.03 because I sold $170 worth of products. Okay? And it gives you the grand total right here, $469.03. Okay? Now let's talk about how he paid. So in this case, what I was doing here was I was inserting what he purchased from me. So now I need to fill out, how did he pay? He paid us using a check. Okay? All right. And then the memo down here, for any reason that you have information or what this memo does is maybe this is a message you want to say to your customer, right? Thank you for your business is one of those things that I can have a message to my customers, right? Maybe I can say keep smiling or just smile, something that's unique to your company, right? So whatever it is that you want to do, be polite. At least have some kind of message saying thank you for your business, thank you for making a payment, thank you for choosing it. Imagine photography. I don't care. This message is going to show up on the invoice, right? And this memo here is for your purpose to keep track of this information. So in this case, what did you sell to this guy? You sold 3 outdoor photo sessions and 2 premium packages. Okay, you can use abbreviations if you like. All right, because this isn't going to show up on their invoice. This is going to show up on your end, on your QuickBooks, because on the invoice, it's already going to show you all the details here. It's going to be printed out saying premium photo package. Okay, it's going to tell you the exact description on your invoice. There's no purpose of this. This memo is for your safekeeping. Okay, so once everything looks good, I'm going to go ahead and save and close. And then it says right here, you made changes to this person's profile. Just click yes. Once you get that beep of approval, you're done. Now, oh no, I forgot to add something into that one. So I need to know where I put that transaction. Well, you can go ahead and right here you have Jerry Perez. Once again, maybe you need to fix his name because it's supposed to be Perez, Jerry. In this case, you guys know what to do, right? But when I click on him, right here, there's his sales receipt. One thing I forgot to add is going to be his check number. Okay, his check number. I forgot to add that in there. So here's a little food for thought. I do think this is kind of weird, but the check number is way over here. Okay, so that's why sometimes it could be very hard to miss. So in this case, he did write us a check, and it was check number. So whatever's written on his profile or on his check is what you're going to record here. So in this case, Jerry Perez wrote us check number, let's see, he wrote us check number 3459. Okay, and I'm going to save and close. And it says you want to change this transaction? Yes. Okay, so that's another way that you could keep also track of where the check came from, what is it paid for, and so on and so forth. So in this case, right, he bought some services and he bought some products from me, and he paid at time of service using a check. And that's how I recorded it, using a sales receipt. Okay, any questions? No?
Not yet.
Okay. Now, question is, what happens to that money? He gave me a check, right? Well, in real life, what would you do if you received a check?
You throw it in the envelope and take it to the bank at night.
Correct, right? You need to deposit it in your bank. So what happens when you receive that check in QuickBooks? Well, let's follow this line real quick. So in this case, I got a sales receipt. So now I hit here, and if I keep going to the right, I need to record a deposit. And look at this. You get flagged that you got 1 pending in there right now. Okay, so if I actually click on it, right, that means I have this 1 check right here that I need to deposit. Because in this case, right, QuickBooks is not going to do it for you automatically, right? How can you, right? QuickBooks is just an application that you have on your computer. How can you tell QuickBooks to deposit money in the bank for you? You can't unless you have digital mobiling app, whatever, nowadays you could take a picture of your check and it will deposit it into your bank. But you still have to physically do that. You still have to physically take a picture of the check, and you have to wait 2 to 3 business days for it to clear into your checking account. That's the same ordeal here. You have the money, but how is it going to go into your checking account? You need to physically take it to the bank and physically take it and deposit it. So in this case, I'm just going to cancel real quick because we're not going to deposit yet. We're going to wait till we receive a little more money first and then make our deposit at the very end of the day. Okay? So that's what we need to make a note is that, okay, we received the check. Where does it go? Right now, it's currently in my undeposited funds account. Okay? Because I need to physically take it to the bank so it transfers directly into my checking account. Same idea here. Okay? So that is where the money goes after you received a payment. Okay? So now that we talked about that, let's talk about invoices. Okay? So again, invoices are when we have our credit customers, right? When our customers choose to buy things from me, but they open up an account and they say, charge my account. Okay? So for instance, right, so now that we dealt with our cash customers, we're now moving on to our credit customers. So next thing we're going to talk about is creating invoices for those customers who choose to pay us later, right? Every single way you were able to enter in a sales receipt, you can do the same exact ways too. So those 6 ways that I taught you, right? Homepage, menu bar, customer center, which has 3, income tracker, they all will be able to create an invoice as well. Okay? So right here, I'm just going to go straight away into my homepage. Now let's take a look at this. What's different between the invoice and the sales receipt? Not much, right? The only difference here is you don't have a section for you to choose the payment. Because in this case, what I'm using the invoices for is to bill my customers. They're not paying yet. They're choosing to pay later. So that's why the invoice and the sales receipt, they look almost identical. Only difference is you're not seeing the options on how to pay. All right, so who are we going to be invoicing today? We are going to be invoicing Mr. Bob Mason. He's from San Jose, and he decided to make a purchase from us on the 27th of January. So, Bob Mason, so I type in B-O-B. There it is, Bob Mason. Okay, he's from San Jose. Okay, he's purchased on January 27th. And now notice this. What happened to my invoice number? In this case, it already associated that this should be 2018-106. Now that's the thing about QuickBooks is once you designate a number, the next time you issue another one, it's going to take the next sequence number. So in this case, right, we need to clear this out because it's not 2018 anymore, right? Hence why I kept telling you guys, right? A lot of these things were made back in the past, and then what they do is they just update the file, okay? So in this case, well, we want to put this as 2022-106, okay? Yes.
So the invoice number and the receipt number can be the same?
It cannot be the same because,
Okay.
I mean, let me rephrase that. Yes, it can be the same because you're gonna if you're using a sequence number like this where it's 2022-101, yes, they can be the same, but they don't represent the same thing. So maybe this is, okay, so for example, right, Starbucks, right? You have people who have the gold card members, and then you have people who pay right then and there with cash, right?
Yeah.
You can keep track of those people as well, right? These are the people who paid with cash. These are the people who paid with credit card or on an account, right? Same ordeal. They can have the same exact number. The only difference is one of them is a sales receipt and the other one's an invoice. They can have the exact same number. There's no conflict in between that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, QuickBooks will not flag you down saying you already used this invoice. It would only do that if you're on the invoice and you do have, and you're using the same exact invoice number. Yes, It will flag you down. But for invoice and sales receipt, they can be the same. Okay, so in this case, it is invoice number 2022-106. Okay? And what did Bob Mason buy for me? He bought one indoor photo session and one standard photo package. Okay? He's going to get taxed at Santa Clara. So notice this, right? When I tapped into Bob Mason's profile, check it out here. He has a billing address and a ship to address. So if I wanted to change the shipping address, let's say he called me and says, wait, don't send it to me. I want you to send it to my mother. I want you to send it to this address instead. You can change it on the form at any given time, right here, under the shipping address. Okay? So as many addresses you create on a profile, it will save all the information for you. So in this case, that's where you can change it here. Now, in this case, there's a purchase order number. Is there a purchase order number? That's only when you have a purchase order number, or in this case, a sales order number. In this case, we won't learn about that until chapter 13, so you don't need to worry about that. But look, they have terms, they have who is the representative, and they have the discount due date, all right? So again, all of these are filled in because we've created the profile, right? We created the profile to begin with, so then when we do enter in this person, all the information fills in for you automatically. And that's how QuickBooks makes it easier to enter in transactions, because if Bob Mason likes to buy stuff from you, instead of having to type his address all in at the same time, having to figure out what his terms are, he does it for you automatically. Okay? So what did he buy from me? He bought an indoor photo session. Oh, so quantity goes first. So he bought one photo indoor. So there you go, indoor. I just typed in IND, and there it is, indoor photo session, right? It's going to cost you $95. So multiply by 1 gives you $95, San Jose. And it's taxed at the service price, okay? Because in this case, it's a service item. It's not a product you sold. And then he bought, I think he bought two standard... No, and he bought one standard photo package. So one standard, so there you go, standard photo package. Okay? And this item is taxable, so that means he's going to get taxed, right? In this case, we already designated that he is going to get taxed at Santa Clara. So therefore, 8.25%, which is going to be $4.54 based off of that photo package that we sold to him. Okay? Again, message to your customer, thank you for your business. Okay, so you can save messages as much as you'd like. So I don't believe there's a character limit on it. But yeah, so if you don't like saying thank you for your business, maybe you want to say thank you for choosing Imagine Photography. So when I typed it in here, right, that drop-down menu allows you to add it in here. So instead of having to type that in every single time for every single customer, you can just select which message you want to put in here. So in this case, thank you for your business is good enough. Okay? Memo, he bought one indoor photo session and one standard package. Okay? Once everything looks good, we can go ahead and save and close. Okay? So now, once again, if I need to find where that transaction is, I can choose by looking at who I wrote it to or who I billed. Okay? I can also take a look at that through my income tracker, right? Because my income tracker is going to give me a list of all the people who owe me money. Okay? So I can find it right here. We just added in Bob Mason. Here we go, right? Okay. Oh, wrong one. Bob Mason was this one right here. Okay. For 2022-106. Okay. All right. Any questions in regards to invoices? right? Straightforward, right? It's pretty simple when you understand that, okay, Bob owes us money. He purchased this and this, and now that he owes me money, I'm going to issue him an invoice. Okay? So, what happens after that? Well, that means we are going to be sitting and waiting until a customer decides to pay us. So in this case, let's follow that line across. So after we entered an invoice, boom, we must receive a payment. Okay? All right, so that's that there. All right. Now, what happens if, well, obviously, right, when we're waiting for our invoice to be paid, right, we can be entering in other invoices so that we can, again, when you have your first interaction with your customers, you want to put in as many invoices as many times as you'd like, okay? But what if I invoice them and they decided maybe today we had a Mother's Day special? I don't know, just throwing things out there, okay? If that's the case, then what happens when we bill our customers and they take advantage of a discount? Well, I'm going to show you how to do that. So when you have an in-store sale or an online deal, right? We do have what's called discount items that can be applied to an invoice. So let's take this for instance, right? Let's take this for instance with calculated items. We have Anderson Wedding, okay? Okay, Anderson Wedding. When I type in Anderson Wedding, it falls into two categories, right? We got one for Katie, Sarah, and the Wilson. And we also, we have the Kumar Sati, and then we have the Sarah Wilson. So in this case, let's see, which one are we supposed to be choosing for this one? We're supposed to be choosing the Wilson and Sarah and Michael, okay? There you go. Where do they belong to? In this case, they also belong to San Jose, okay? And they chose to take advantage of today, right? Today is the 27th. And they decided to purchase from us a camera and a lens, okay? Now, let's just say today we have a special deal on the cameras and all the lenses, okay? Now, look at this, right? Like I've mentioned, when you assign a number, QuickBooks is going to take that and it's going to now issue another invoice in that exact series order. So see, notice this. I didn't have to type this in. It just says 22-107. So like I said, when you create a sequence, right, by typing in a number in here, it's going to automatically keep track of which number that you're on. So you don't have to do it yourself. You don't have to memorize it yourself. So there you go. All that information is already in there. So what did they buy from me? They bought one camera, okay, one SR camera 32, okay, and they decided to buy three. Oh wait, hold on. They bought 3 cameras and 1 lens. Okay, my bad. So they bought 3 different cameras and they bought 1 zoom in lens. Okay. So let's see that. Now we got items that are taxable and items that are not taxable. Let's say they decided that we have a store-wide sale. Everything is going to be 10% off or 15% off, whatever discount you decide to have. In this case, what I can do here is I can insert a line item here for the discount. So if I go ahead and type in DISE right here in QuickBooks, I've already designated a discount item for the sales tax. So sales tax for 10% discount, if I click on this, notice this, okay? So right here it tells me it's a 10% discount, and it's going to subtract 10%, which is going to be $32.50. Now, what's wrong with this line item? In this case, right, I'm only discounting one of the items when my whole entire store has a 10% discount. how is it that I'm only discounting one item at a time? Okay? In this case, that means when I use my discount item, it's only calculating the discount based on the previous number. So how am I going to make it look so then it does for the discount for both of the items? You have two choices now. If you ever seen your receipt and you buy things that are on sale, right? You're going to notice that your receipt's going to have the full price, underneath it's going to have the discount, and it's going to subtract it, right? Then you have your next item, and then the next item under that is going to be your discount line. That's exactly what a typical receipt looks like, right? If you're buying things on sale, they're going to be discounted. Well, what if I have different discount rates? What if my cameras are 40% off and any accessories are 10% off? Then you would have to do exactly like how I've mentioned, where you only put the discount under the preceding item, because it's only going to calculate the discount there. But that's just one of the ways that you could do. So in this case, I would have to just enter in the discount line item after every item if you have different rates. But in this case, right, let's just say I'm going to go ahead and take off all of it. How do I do that? Well, I'm going to first go ahead and create a subtotal line item. So if I go ahead and click tab, notice this is going to change all the information here because I entered in a subtotal line item. It's going to give me a subtotal of what my total grand amount is. So in this case, you see, I have a grand total of $2,412. Okay? Once I've done that, then I can go ahead and enter in my discount line item because it's going to calculate the line preceding it. So in this case, now it's going to calculate what 10% of the grand total subtotal is. So in this case, I get a $241 discount versus the simple $32? Okay? So then in this case, right, that's what you have to do. And just exactly like on your receipt, right, tax is charged after the discount, never before. Okay? So it's based on your subtotal, then you take the discount, then whatever amount you have from there, then you tax at whatever tax it's supposed to be. So in this case, they belong to San Jose, so they're going to be taxed at the Santa Clara tax. Okay? And then that's how it should look like. All right? Once again, thank you for your business. Okay? What is the memo? They bought three cameras and one lens at 10% discount. Okay? And once everything looks good, then you gotta go ahead and save and close. Okay? Now, here, this is what happens when you see this right here. This is what happens when you go above the credit limit. So every individual, right, we have an $8,000 credit limit. If for any reason that the customer does go over it, this is the message I was talking about. You're going to get an error message saying, hey, this customer has exceeded their credit limit. Are you going to choose to continue, or are you going to tell them, are you going to reject their services and tell them, no, you went over. You need to pay your bill first, and then we can go ahead and proceed your sales. In this case, usually you're going to have to go through your customer profile to see how much money they owe and make your decision then. But in this case, I already know. I'm going to say I'm fine with it, so I'm going to click yes. I'm going to continue with that process. Okay? So that's how you use calculating items. All right? Any questions there? Okay? No questions? Now, for every invoice, right, just like how for vendors, right, you're also able to attach the actual physical invoice on there. You can also print this out from your computer as well, but for any reason you need to attach any documentations to a transaction, you're able to by using that paperclip icon to attach any documents. Okay? So that's the last thing I'm going to say here. So let's go ahead and stop here, and we'll continue on with chapter 2 after the break. Okay?